Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Natalia Bonner and here with my husband Brad. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer video. Some of you have messaged me and questioned because we didn't do a live one here on YouTube last week, and that's because we have been doing a 12 days of Christmas giveaways over on Facebook. So we actually have been doing a lot of question and answer videos over there, but we love doing them here on on YouTube. Where are we? So of course we're back today with another one. There were a lot of questions. I've had a lot of questions asked over the last couple of weeks, so we're here to answer them. And if you do have any, feel free to ask them while I'm chatting away, and maybe I can answer those while we're here. So if you're new, I'm Natalia Bonner. This is Brad. Every Friday, I share a machine quilting video here on YouTube, and I also share several videos, more instructional type videos, over on Patreon. And my husband, Brad, helps me with the question and answer videos. I think seem a little bit better when someone's actually asking me the questions. So let's get to those.
All right, first question here. To ditch or not ditch? That is the question.
Okay, so this is a really good question. Personally, I love the look of Stitch in the Ditch. I feel like it just really helps to separate, like background elements from block elements, things like that. Obviously, when seams are pressed open, different circumstances, you can't always stitch in the ditch, but personally, I just like the look of it. Now, everything that I say here is totally just my opinions. If you ask 100 different quilters, you're going to get 100 different opinions, but I do try to stitch in the ditch whenever possible. So,
The next question is for me. Does your husband ever quilt?
no, so he doesn't quilt. Have you ever even tried to use the long arm? Okay, so apparently he's never even tried to use the long arm. I couldn't remember if I'd let you try to just play around with it before or not.
Not interested.
Okay, but he does respect it, and he's been to a lot of quilt shows with me and a lot of trunk shows and different things. Sometimes when I'm doing trunk shows, I forget the names of quilts because I have so many. I've made so many quilts, and he actually usually remembers them and even remembers some of the stories about the quilts better than I do. So it's fun to have him along and help me with all of that.
I like that part. I don't quilt though.
Any questions that they're asking that you want to? I'm not reading those, so if you see any on there that pop up that you want to ask me, let me know. Okay.
Next one. When doing ruler work on a domestic machine, are the feed dogs down?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I show a lot of ruler work in my videos here and my videos on Facebook. You totally can do ruler work, even though mine are on the Gamble machine, you can totally do it on a domestic machine. You do need to make sure that you have a ruler foot, make sure it's the correct foot for your machine, but it does need to be a ruler foot. And you will want to drop your feed dogs. So it's more like doing free motion quilting, if your feed dogs are up, you only have the ability to go straight, which is great if you're just wanting to do like edge to edge straight line quilting, piecing, things like that. But a lot of times when you're doing ruler work, you want to be able to move on different angles, and I recommend dropping the feed dogs.
All right, next question. Why do you rotate your needle?
Okay, so on a domestic machine, again, you can't rotate your needle. Most of them are made so that the back side of the needle is flat and the needle, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. So the needle just goes straight one direction that's all it can do. But in the long arm, the needles are round, so the needles can actually rotate a little bit. I do rotate my needles in my long arm machine slightly to the right. Again, this is personal preference. I feel like I have a few less thread breakages when I rotate my needle just slightly to the right. And when I say slightly, I mean like a couple of hairs towards the right, just a tiny bit. I feel like I've had better success doing that. So it's just something that I do.
All right. Are feathers the first thing you would suggest learning as a beginner?
No. So just a quick little story. When I started quilting, I always told people that I would never quilt feathers because I didn't think they were my style. I thought they were way too traditional for me, and I didn't feel like they were something I would ever quilt on my own quilts. So obviously I have eaten my own words more than once and have written a whole book on feathers because I love them so much now. But honestly, I wouldn't recommend starting out with them because they can be kind of a little bit more complicated. You do need to have really good control over your machine when you are quilting feathers. So I recommend, if you are totally just starting out, honestly, start with my book, Beginner's Guide to Free Motion Quilting. The way that I've written the book, I start with like very simple loops. I personally think quilting loops is even easier than stippling. So I recommend that's where you start, work through that. And then actually by the end of that book, I do show you feathers. So start out really simple, loops, things like that, and then you can work your way up to feathers.
I did see a question on there, and I think it was for Francisco, I think. Sorry if I got that wrong. Do you still have your first quilt?
The first quilt I ever made.
I think it said, do you still have your first quilt?
So the first quilt I ever made, I do still have. I should go dig it out. It's in my hope chest. But it's a really, really awful quilt that I made when I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. And my mom owned a custom drapery and home decor store. So I would take the scraps from the ladies and piece them together, cut them up. I used like a cardboard template, cut them up into squares, then used an industrial sewing machine with a 1/2-inch seam allowance to piece these squares together. It's just awful. Then I tied it with cording. So no machine quilting. I tied it with cording. If you know about tying quilts, you don't tie quilts with cording. I also, then after that, it's just awful. The whole thing's a mess, but I put it in my local fair and it won $1. So I was happy. It's actually something that I tell people all the time. It kind of started my whole journey into machine quilting. Even just winning that $1 and getting negative comments, it's still like made me so excited that I should get that quilt out and just, have you ever even seen it?
I have. I have. Did you see that one about seeing straight? How do you keep seeing straight when you're quilting? I'm sorry, disappeared.
Oh, no, I don't know why they sometimes disappear. I think we can make them.
Right there. How do you keep seeing so straight on your long arm?
So I guess the way that I would answer that question would be, let me see, I'll turn that back on. So the way that I would answer the question, let me read it again. How do you keep seeing so straight on your long arm? When I sew too close to a seam, the machine bumps and the machine moves out of whack. My best advice would be just go slow, use a ruler if that's helpful for you to keep lines straight, things like that. Also put stabilizer, like a stable tape, on the back of your ruler. By using the stable tape, it can help keep things really smooth. If your machine is kind of moving out of whack, kind of bumping, things like that, make sure your tracks are clean, make sure that your tires on your machine are clean, things like that. They should, from my experience, the machine should glide really smoothly. Yes, they are, they can move, they're free, they can move really wild, but slow down, put some stable tape on your ruler and just go slow. That should help.
Let's do that other one. Do you use pre-round bobbin or do you wind your own?
I actually wind my own. I've gone back and forth. I don't have a problem with the pre-wound bobbins. One of my machines that I had didn't love pre-wound bobbins as much, so I just kind of got in the habit. The really awesome thing about the Gamble machines is they have a winder on the machine. So as I'm quilting, I have a cone. You can't see it because it's back there on the back, but I have a giant cone of the bottom line thread that's just winding my bobbin as I go. So for me, at this point in time, I found that just winding my own bobbins works good for me.
And the last one I have here is the so fine thread that you use, cotton.
No, it's not a cotton thread. When I tell you this, that it's 100% polyester thread, don't go running for the hills and thinking that I'm a crazy person because I'm using polyester thread on my cotton quilt tops. This is a thread that is made for machine quilting. It's a really strong thread. I love it because it blends really nicely. It takes on different colors. It's a fine thread. I don't feel like it's an overpowering thread. The other thing, I don't have as much lint. I also don't feel like I have as many thread breakages with this so fine thread. So a lot of reasons go into why I use that thread, but most of all, I'm able to achieve really great results with it. So was there any other questions that you
missed any on there,
saw? We'll see if there are any others. You see any others? Okay. Thanks everybody for joining us today. If you are on Facebook, make sure to check out my Facebook page. It's Peace and Quilt. I am doing a 12 Days of Christmas giveaways right now. The winners will be announced tomorrow. They've been some awesome giveaways, but you can still check on those and enter to win some of my giveaways. But also, along with those giveaways, through tomorrow night at midnight, I am giving away, well, not giving away, I'm giving everybody a 12% discount if you want to purchase anything on my website. If you're interested in signing up for any of my classes, the website's peaceandquilt.com. But just use the discount code 12, like the number 12, and then days, and it'll automatically save you 12%. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Maybe.